Alright, here we go. Hello, everyone. It's Darren here, and we're going to be doing Live Oaks map walkthrough. I am joined here with an assistant, MacIver. I almost called you Mc. I almost going to screw that up. Yeah. So, we will be pretty much doing the same as usual. We will be covering the places to go on the maps and a rough strategy of how the map should be played out from both sides. So, starting off here in the south, I'm going to start with the tracks first. So, tracks. Tracks is one of those places where it's like, if you push, you don't push alone, because otherwise the other team's just going to steamroll you. I guess with Artie really quickly. Artie goes in this ditch thing over here on the left side. Mac is disconnected apparently. And he's back. Alright, so over there in that ditch, sometimes you'll see Artie back over here in the corner. This building and these tracks right here is a nice little spot for a TD to camp back here and then, fire and dip back down. You'll see TDs like 4005s, T28s, T28 Protos, T95s, all the big guns. They'll be camping right back here on the tracks. Moving down over here, heavy tanks, medium tanks, some other TDs that'll be on this ridge. I don't recommend really coming up and cresting these hills if you don't have the gun depression to do so. A nice little spot that I tend to use sometimes just for some spotting to see if anyone is foolish enough to go swamp is right here. Limited success, but it does work sometimes. If you are a lack of gun depression heavy tank, your best bet is to probably be right around down here shooting across. But again, this favors more of medium tanks, heavy tanks, TDs with gun depression on this whole area here. So moving across here, from the south spawn, your objective should be to push to this ridge right here. This ridge, this is where you should be pushing to. Don't hold up and don't stop back at that ridge over here. You should be pushing up to this one. Right where just think of the blue train right here. That's where you need to be pushing up to. This is a nice, good ridge right here for tanks such as the Action Exit Cross. Get some good cross shots, all sorts of stuff. Heavy tanks and TDs and most of the other stuff, a big chunk of the fighting is going to be right around on this side of the hill here. Now, when it comes to pushing on this side, you need to be wary of, for the most part, 3 different points of where the enemy team will probably be fighting across this little mouth of this river thing. There'll be this spot over here, right around by the trains. They'll be hiding right there, using that as a corner. Over here on this side is where you'll get some tanks with gun depression or a light tank or something down over there. And then there's a bowl right here in the middle that you'll see heavy tanks and medium tanks and stuff be down over here. Heck, if you're lucky, you might even see a light tank, or you might even discover a light tank camping behind those bushes over here. When it comes to pushing, this rule is for both sides, so the north and south spawn. If you're going to push down in here, do not push alone, because if the enemy team discovers that you're just that lone tank down here, they're just going to roll down on you and kill you and get rid of you. And so if you're going to roll down in here, or you're going to push down in here, make sure that the rest of the team, or if you're in a platoon, make sure the entire platoon is with you. Otherwise, they're just going to steamroll you. Approaching this from this end here, good ways to do it would be from this side if you got the gun depression. If you have the gun depression, best way to do it is to do it sideways, lateral like this. It also gives you extra gun depression, but also you expose yourself a little bit less. I wouldn't recommend fighting or anything here, or trying to crest or fight here in the middle. Not so much. You are pretty much open to anything, as you can see here. You are exposed on all sides when you peek up here in the middle. The other way to approach it is right around coming through here. I wouldn't cut the corner like I just did. I'd go all the way around, try not to expose yourself or get spotted. Come down here into this bowl. You can see MacGyver posing. Look at that. It's beautiful. Come up here and just crest this, play the hull down, peek-a-boom game, and you got nice flanks on anyone that's over there by the train tracks, anyone that's too busy tunnel visioning that's here on the bowl behind the bush. It's a nice little spot, but it's also another one of these places where you don't want to really go down here alone, just because if they discover you here alone, they're going to push you and get rid of you.
As well as actually lack of gun depression.
Yeah. Why, does that spot right there work if you don't have the gun depression?
No, this whole area. You wouldn't want to be
yes.
no gun.
Yes, you are right. You are right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Alright, clumsy. Alright, so anyway, continuing on this way. So, basically, you want to hide yourself a little bit. If you got the camo or the enemy team is pushed all the way into town, you can kind of peek up here and get rid of any TDs that are too busy focusing on counter sniping and pop them. Otherwise, your focus should be to eliminate artillery that will more than likely, if they are, not paying attention to the map, they will still be back over here somewhere in the train station, train depot. Other than that, don't cap. This map is a non-capping map. Do not cap whatever you do. As you can see, this spawn is out in the open. You have no cover. There is no hard cover for you to hide behind. You are going to die. Best way, if you're going to push around and flank on the enemy team, is pretty much kind of coming and riding this ridge right here. You can ride this ridge because if the enemy team comes back to defend their cap, they're going to be behind the road, the elevated road right over here. They're going to more than likely be hiding back there. So just ride this ridge on the edge of the swamp and just pretty much come here to where the enemy TDs were at and just start, picking them off, flanking them, whatever you need to do to get rid of them there. But as you can see, as MacGyver is demonstrating, he came back to defend the cap, hull down. I can't really do anything here. And if trying to cross to get to him and fight him, he's going to do more damage to me than I will to him for me just trying to get over there and to fight him face to face. So flank and outmaneuver anyone that is over there on the other side of the road. A good way to also do that is if you have any tanks that push into the train station to eliminate artillery, they can also use those buildings and get side shots on the tanks that are using the ridge. So it's all about flanking. It's a massive pincer attack when it comes to dealing with the tanks that are using the road as cover. Other than that, you just push right into town and you get rid of anyone that is there, provided that the fighting is still going on here in town. And for the most part, that's pretty much how you play the railroad tracks from the south. We're now going to take a look at fighting town from the south. It's not really something I'd recommend, especially from the south spawn, as town or going town is more catered towards the north team. They actually get to town a lot quicker than the south team does. Probably if the spawn was moved back a little bit more, that'd be a little bit more balanced, but the spawn has not changed since this map was introduced, so I'm just going to have to deal with it. Alright, so I don't really need to go any farther. That just wastes my time. Alright, so I spawned back there. I'm moving straight up to town here. If I am a big lumbering TD, or a TD with camo, something like that, always coming up here. I always see the TDs coming up here. It does have success, provided that the light tank actually does what he needs to do. If you got enough camo, you can actually use some of these bushes. If you can get away with knocking some of these trees over, fantastic. But you'll see the TDs coming here early on in the game and pretty much sniping anyone that gets spotted coming across. So you can see if MacGyver was crossing that to get to the town, he would be dead. Or, yeah, he'd be dead if I was a big, 183 or something. Light tanks, the light tank route. This works here, provided that you don't have a medium tank or something pushing from the enemy team and out-spotting you. If you have the ability and you have the camo, this is a nice little spot to just set up shop. Don't fire, though, because enemy TDs will be over here on that hill where MacGyver's at, or anything high camo. You'll be over there, and if you fire, you are going to be detected. So this is a nice, good spot. If you're going to active scout, this is a little bit risky. You can push up to this ridge, but you're going to be diving down really quickly. You're not going to linger there. You can come up, spot what's there, pull back, and just ride right. Pull back along this ridge height here, duck back into cover, and then ride through these houses. If you still spot nothing, you can actually go even farther. So you can come push up this way, at least again, until you spot something. Once you spot something, dive back down into cover, use the buildings for cover, and that's pretty much it there. Light tank rolls don't really have much of a function. There is a bush in the swamp, but it's only for high camo light tanks. So don't go rocking down in there in a 48 Patton. You will be discovered. I don't even know where the bush is. That's how little I ever even see someone go down there. I think it's right there in the middle. It might even be a tree-rock combination. I don't even know. With only 3 minutes, 30 seconds left, real quick, pushing into town. Definitely, I'd say hug the one line here, because anything else, you'll be outspotted by light tanks or medium tanks that have high vision, like the 48 Patton. Ride the one line through, and pretty much it's going to be a brawl game. Whatever the main tip here, and pick your poison, which flank you want to be on. You can be on the other side of this road or not. Just do not fight on Main Street right here. Do not fight on Main Street, because more than likely enemy TDs will be looking right down Main Street. You are going to take a hit, a massive hit, if you linger here too much or you get tracked out in the open. Other than that, fighting, you aren't really already safe, contrary to popular belief. They're back here. You are still already unsafe. This whole area here. Pretty much you are... and most of these buildings are destructible, except for the ones that are like 2-3 stories. So these are destructible. Back here is really the only main already safe area, but everything else here is destructible. The trick here is to keep pushing. When you fight town, you want to fight town and win quickly. Other than that, when you fight here in this whole town, your objective should be to push the enemy team back, so that way they are already unsafe. Push them so that way you're already can get shots on them. Otherwise, they're just going to bunker down along some of these buildings, and you're going to try and push out and get shots on them, and you're just going to get blapped by the TDs that are camping the main street, or the artillery that's going to, undoubtedly be focusing here most of the time, because this is where the big alpha tanks go. This is where all the big hit points. And then when you are pushing to get rid of anything like that, let's say the railroad tracks are held up instead of town, you should be pushing this way. You should be pushing on this side of the road. Same thing like you were coming back to defend the North Cat here. You want to be on this side of the road, push through, get rid of the artillery, And whatever you do, do not cross no man's land here in the middle. Don't do it. With a minute, I definitely will be able to show what you do to counter flank the railroad tracks. Pretty much push all the way through. Push around. Get rid of the tanks here on the tracks that are able to get shots on your teammates down there by the tracks, and just push. Again, as you can see, it's a little bit more no man's land on this side, so when that happens, once you have pushed these tanks around, back around the corner, you can safely cross over the tracks and start fighting on this side and just continuously pushing. At this point, you should be able to cross under the bridge and start fighting as well. But for the most part, that's taking that's live oaks from the south spawn, and we will switch over to the north spawn now and show how that is done. I'm not really going to drown myself with 3 seconds left. I think there are people watching, but I'm not actually even... I'm doing walkthroughs right now. Yeah, I hope you aren't having you know, your mic isn't included with that. That'd be a little awkward. I don't even think I can let me quickly here while this is loading. I'm going to check to see if there's anyone here watching, because I see people watching. So all right. So there we go. Get the Action X back up. Clumsy, your mic isn't included, right? There goes my dog too. It's always fun. It's always fun in my house. Swap team. And swap team. There we go. And we're just going to start the battle. If you guys have any questions while I'm doing this, feel free to ask. You know, partially why these are here and why they're kind of also live streamed, aside from the technical problems. Yes, from the north spawn. Railroad tracks, for the most part, is almost the same way until you get to the south spawn, but for the most part, the railroad tracks is played the same. So, again, we're going to start with railroad tracks and move our way back to town. So, Artie on this side, like I mentioned on the other half, Artie's going to be camping back over here. Sometimes I have seen Artie over on this side, over here, to provide a little bit more direct fire support. I've never seen him push any farther than these 2 trees right here. I've never seen him push any farther than these 2 trees. So, from the south, from the north spawn, the railroad tracks, for the most part, you don't really see any big TDs coming on this side. I do see E4s, the occasional E3 come this way, but everything else that is big tends to go city, because that's where most of the hit points pools are. E4s, I have seen pretty much camp the train cars here and roll out and peek and eliminate any of the TDs that are on the other side. This dip right here, again, is good for medium tanks, anything else here. Light tanks, I've seen come up here. Even a medium tank, if you got the spotting and the camo or whatever. Medium tank can roll up here and get spots as well. But this, again, this is the same spot. You'll see people on this end, heavy tanks, medium tanks fighting here. TDs, for the most part, like an E4, will be over here by the tracks. And then Bat Chats, 50-51s, the light tanks, they tend to move over onto this area here to get side shots of anyone crossing, coming down, fighting on this along the water line. The autoloaders tend to camp over here. Even I've seen a machine, I've seen a chieftain come down here too. They've been successful. Same rule applies, like I mentioned. Don't come down here unless you are, well, actually, you are able to get down here safely. this is your objective, at least early on, should be to be right here. Because then that way, if you've discovered that the enemy team has a huge force right over there, you at least have the ability to set this as like your first defensive line, and then you can retreat if you have to. But if you push across this no man's land and get caught out, you are pretty much kind of screwed, because you don't have the TD support like the south side does. You don't have this long avenue of approach. Your TDs have to poke out and expose themselves more. So this is a nice, good fighting area for the medium tanks with gun depression. As you can see, me and Mac can very easily fight and brawl with each other because we got the gun depression here. Other tanks, again, if you got the gun depression, you can pretty much use this whole ridge, but the main focal points for fighting is right there by the blue train, and again, like here, right? So once you eliminate these tanks and you push their TDs back over the ridge or whatever, you can push over, and pretty much it's the same way that you do the railroad tracks, just the opposite direction. Same rule, like I mentioned, don't push down over here unless you have people pushing down or around or anything like that, because the TDs will be right over here. All they have to do is roll up and blap you while you are exposed, and there goes half your hit points, and then anything else down here, and then you're dead. And then the biggest risk is that you are also exposed to all the TDs over there on that hill that I mentioned previously. So if you're going to push down here, you need to make sure that you push and you fight and you win here quickly. So regarding that, when you are pushing through to this building, whatever you do, do not push on the other side here of the tracks. Do not push on this. Do not push on this side. And the reason behind this is because you have no place for you to really be able to fight. You know, sure, if you swing around here, you might be able to get a good shot, but hey, look at this. I have just made this huge profile, and I have exposed my lower plate to everything else on the other side of this tracks. They're on a little, you know, they're hunkering behind the tracks, and I'm pushing up above them, and they can shoot up to me. It does not really work well pushing from this side. Instead, you want to push on this side. You can see it's a more shallow approach for the most part. For the most part, you are safe from getting flanking shot or flanked shots coming your way from the hill for the most part here. You can push up, and you look at this, you got your own like nice little railroad track hill here for you to use. If you're like an IS-7 or something, this works fantastic for you. But yes, medium tanks, light tanks as such, they ride this ridge for the most part. And they come up to this little defilade right here. They peek up just a little bit. They spot the arty, eliminate the arty if they're out in the open and not in the ditch or moved. Seen them push even farther to where Mac's at. I have seen them push that way, but that is pretty much once they have eliminated most of the TDs on this side and the TDs have shifted to the other side of the hill. I have seen the medium tanks push to where Mac is. Be wary though that if medium tanks that went town come back to defend base, you will find that Mac is in the location that where you will find those medium tanks from the south spawn coming back to defend. Both sides have this really easy, like, since the spawn is in the open, both sides are able to defend their spawn very easily. They have terrain that is a good distance away that allows them to defend their terrain. And it just proves that you don't cap on this map. You don't try to. Unless they're capping your cap, then I guess you can counter cap. But that's really when there's only like 2 tanks left. But yeah, that's pretty much fighting here on this ridge. You can push around through the blue, at least fighting on this ridge up to the hill there. I'm going to quickly cover for the heavy tanks or the TDs or the fast lights, whatever, when they push around here. Once you've cleared whatever tanks have made a defend the Alamo stand in this factory complex, you can push right around along the edge here, and you will find an arty maybe. If they haven't moved yet, you will find an arty back here in this back corner. I recommend coming this way if you're going to try and find arty and get rid of them. Come this way instead of cutting across cap, because if the enemy team doesn't know you're here and they're not focused, nothing will alert them to where you're at more than the alarm going off that you're capping. So push around through behind the hard cover buildings here, or even the soft cover buildings, because these will at least take a shot or two instead of you being the one taking the shot. If you're fast enough, if you're a bat chat, a light tank, you should be able to relatively cross here quickly. You may take a shot or two, and it may kill you depending on what your hit pool is, but you'll find arty down here, and arty will be ready for you if they moved here and they know that you're coming for them. They will be ready to shotgun you. But yes, pushing down through here, even the heavy tanks, once this whole area is clear, the medium tanks, heavy tanks pretty much start crossing in the open. I more recommend still fighting on the ridge here. But then you want to push up to this hill here, and you want to start dealing with the TDs that are on the other side. And the way to fight on this hill is go around the hill. Don't go over the hill, go around. So fight around here, and then fight on the other side. And that's just pretty much how you push into town. Push into town on this, it doesn't matter at this point. You could push into town on either side of the road. Quickly, because we got 6 minutes, and I might not even need the full 6 minutes to explain this. From the town side, same situation I'm going to quickly describe here. TDs, like I said previously, they tend to camp over here. You can get, if you can get away with knocking a tree down or so, more power, more camo to you. Bat chats, light tanks, I have seen them passive scout here as well. You do have the bushes for them, provided that you're small enough. Now, an active light tank scout roll or path, pretty much push down along the ridge. Heck, you could even, if you feel gutsy, you could push up and do the same counter push right here if you got the camo for it. But if you feel lucky and you want to cash in on that lottery ticket, you can push up here to this red building, maybe even the blue building if you're super fast. But you're going to want to duck right back down, use these buildings for cover. There really is not much for you in terms of cover for when you are running away, at least until you get here, because then you can duck here through the buildings and get through here. I mean, obviously I'm an Action X, so I'm not going to be able to get through here as fast or be as nimble. But yeah, that's pretty much the light tank active scout roll. Again, I really wouldn't go swamp at all. So for heavy tanks or whatever other tank you feel like coming this way, this side of the road. You want to go on this side of the road, take this side of the road, because then if you do get spotted, at least you have some cover and you minimize your profile of some. By destroying all these buildings, you just make it easier for arty to hit you, but you also tell them where you're at. Excuse me, I'm getting hiccups now. But like I said, look at all this, all these destroyable buildings. Mac here trying to camouflage with a brick wall. But again, like I said here, for the most part here, the tanks from this spawn will push around through on this side and fight you, because they are more going to be arty safe on this side than you will. And everything on the other side of Main Street, for the most part, is destructible. For the most part. Not everything, but for the most part, everything else is destructible. For TDs, I've seen reverse side scrape along this building, reverse side scrape right there on that little corner nook. Heck, weirdly enough, I've seen Jaegeroos use this billboard as cover, but I think you can shoot through this now, and I think this is like a suspension of disbelief that people, oh yeah, I think you totally can shoot through there. So, but yeah, just keep that note that the billboard is not hard cover. Mac's gonna test that theory real fast here. Let's debunk this. Okay, so that's destroyed, but I still believe you can shoot through it, so we will find out. Yeah, look at that, right through. So, that is not hard cover. So whatever you do, you know, you can just, if there's a tank right there and he thinks he's cheeky or whatever it is, look at that. I can shoot right through. But yes, you will see them. They will shoot you if you, you know, well, I'm sorry. I'm thinking the wrong side. If you are a tank down here and you're side scraping along here, if you catch any foolish tank peeking out too long or expose too much of them, you'll be able to have this nice clean shot to just blap them. I guess for encounter mode, this is where the spawn is on encounter mode. And as you can see, everything is destructible here at the church. It is just, except that apparently. Yeah, it's just a massive cluster here. Again, like I said, if you're gonna fight in town, you gotta fight and win quickly. And then you win, you fight here, whatever you need to do. There's two ways that you could really approach this, depending on what, depending on what the rest of the enemy team is doing. You could, in theory, approach on this side here, because you have this nice little deep defilade for you to dive down in if you need to. Plus, it also forces the enemy TDs to crest the hill if they want to hit you. Of course, the other one, and I don't really completely recommend doing this, is coming through where Mac's at. And the only reason I say this is because the TDs will be camping right there on that corner, and you are crossing a no man's land. And sure, this is a tiny hill that provides a little bit of hold down, but again, you are exposed to everything. Your best bet is to take this to the first side that I mentioned, because at least that way you have a hill, that a defilade you can hide down into if you have to, and you force the TDs to crest the hill or to expose themselves to come around the hill. Once you do that, and you do, you win this here, you just push through. The light tank should spot anything that's over there. Get rid of Artie if you have to. First of all, get rid of these TDs because they're going to keep you here. I think the light tank, for the most part, makes a suicide run down here. Even from on this hill, you should be able to spot the artillery if they fire. Easy enough. Push through. You could push straight across this field at this point and clear out whatever is behind the complex. Push around over the tracks, down. Same thing. But for the most part, that is Live Oaks. You have anything to comment on that? Oh, I got comments actually. Would it be a good strategy to stay behind the tracks and snipe the Reds as they cross the open area towards the green base? It depends, honestly.
Which side?
Yeah, which side? Are you talking from the south spawn as green base, or are you talking north spawn as green base?
Or one you spawned on first.
For the most part, what ends up happening when it comes to staying on those tracks is you limit yourself to what you're able to do. If you're mobile like an E4, you can push with the team and support them that way. If you're a T95, your best bet, is to just find a spot where you're going to be the most useful and hunker down there. I mean, the T95, obviously is not the fastest, so you're probably, you're going to want to play it like a heavy tank or even a defensive tank there. Because you get in a spot and you just defend your position there. But sniping and staying in the one spot there isn't going to really do much. Because the enemy team, like I said, it favors defending both teams are able to defend their base relatively easy. Nor is it easy to attack the other team's base either. So it goes hand in hand. North spawn. His question was, would it be a good strategy to stay behind the tracks from the north spawn and snipe the Reds as they cross the open area towards the green base, or towards your base? I don't think you actually have the vision to be able to stay by. Oh, okay. I think he means from the track side, staying there on the tracks and shooting by those tanks. Yeah, it's a good strategy if you got the if you're slow enough to where you know that the enemy team is going to be destroyed before you get there. I have seen medium tanks and TDs like the T-95 that went tracks stay there and snipe across at the TDs that are still trying to, play that counter snipey game, whatever, there by town. So it can work. It's just once you're lit there and discovered, it's, you're exposed on top of tracks, you're going to have to dive back down. And it depends on your view range and if your team is actually going out there to spot them. So, but yeah, that pretty much covers Live Oaks. This has been Darren, and I will, until next time, this has been Darren of WotC Academy.